Yo, the Bucks just keep on going and going, man. They re-signed Leonard Fournette to a 1 year, $4 million deal. Um, Let me tell you something, Mar. I think this is a good signing by the Buccaneers. Um, he actually came in clutching them in the playoffs. He rushed 60. He had 64 rushes for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, which is pretty impressive. But he also caught 18 passes for 148 yards and a touchdown. So that's also pretty impressive too for a running back. Um, as for his season stats, they're not that impressive given that they had a lot of running backs. But for what he made out of it, in my opinion, it's not that bad. He rushed 97 times. He had 367 yards, 6 touchdowns, but he also spent 3 games on an inactive list, so that also probably has something to do with it. And this was written by Nick Shook around the NFL right and reported by Ian Rappaport. So you go first, Mario. What do you think of the Bucks re-signing Leonard Fournette?
First of all, congratulations to Leonard Fournette on getting an extension on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Nate, I'm getting surprised at this point. I am getting surprised because I can't believe the Bucks just keep on resigning everybody. I can't believe it. You know, I just can't. I just can't because I feel like eventually you need to know like when like the reset. I feel like eventually I'm about to hear somebody on the Bucks get released. You know, I thought it was gonna be Leonard. Antonio Brown is the last one that hasn't got signed yet. Maybe he'll get re-signed, maybe not. I'm not sure, but I'm kind of surprised that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are just resigning everybody. You know, and they're resigning them for like a low cost too. Which I think is absolutely a brilliant idea by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Because at this point, I don't think anybody on the Buccaneers cares about getting paid. You know, I really don't. Like to be
Well,
real,
they
like
care about
obviously,
running it back.
right, exactly, and obviously, like like Chris Godwin getting on a franchise tag that might annoy him, and I understand that. But like honestly, I think they know the biggest picture is to win another Super Bowl. Because once you win, let me explain it this way, Nate. Okay, when you what do you call? I feel like a lot of these players, and I'm not a professional, so I don't know. A lot of these players, like I feel like when they get into the league, obviously they want to win a Super Bowl, right? But when they prove themselves as like an elite player, I feel like the next thing that comes to their mind is like the amount of money that they're gonna get.
Yeah, right.
The amount of money, or will I get the amount of money that I feel like I'm worth? Okay. Here's the thing: once you win that Super Bowl, though, it's such a great feeling that at that right after you win it, I don't think money even matters to them. So, for instance, like I could be a player asking for like 100 million for like 5 years, right? The second I win that Super Bowl, I know how great it feels because that is the greatest feeling in the NFL, winning that Super Bowl. At that point, the 100 million doesn't feel like anything to me, you know, because I won a Super Bowl. I did what a lot of people can't do in this league. So why? So again, what does the money even matter? Let me do it again, so I can be part of the very few people who've won 2 Super Bowls. You know, so like, I mean, I think that's what they're going to right now. I think they felt like what it feel. I think they know what it feels like to win a Super Bowl, and I think they're gonna want to run it back. You know, exactly. They're gonna want to run it back, and I think that's the biggest priority on their mind is running it back. Which is why you're hearing about people taking pay cuts on that team. Which is why you're hearing about like Gronk and like Leonard Fournette signing. Leonard Fournette signed a 1 year deal,
Yeah,
which is why exactly. So, which is why you're hearing about them signing 1 year deals. Is because they want to make it. They want to run it back. You know, they're not right now. I don't think anybody's really interested in getting that high paying contract. The only one on the Bucks I can think of right now that got that high paying contract is Shaq Barrett when he got the 4 years.
yeah.
When he got the 4 year contract, that was a big contract for him and well deserved too. But other than that, you didn't really hear about you didn't hear about any guys on the Bucks getting like these long term contracts. You know, they're all just getting they're all just staying for like 1 more year because they feel like they can run it back in this 1 more year. Now, obviously, I feel like they're gonna go through all this next season free agency and off season. I feel like they're gonna go through all of this right here again, all over again, because you're only signing them to 1 year contracts, which is the downside to it. They got to go through this whole process again. But right now, Nate, I think they're making the right choices to make it back again. You know, and they have the defense to do it. The offense is definitely there to do it. You know, one more guy to resign, Nate, I think, and his name is Antonio Brown. Let's see if he gets re-signed. Now, obviously, there's been rumors about him wanting to put like whether Russell Wilson wants him in Seattle and like this team wants him in that team and everything like that. We don't listen to rumors until it actually happens. But yeah, I think Antonio Brown would be the next. I think Antonio Brown should be the next guy you resign. And I think if that happens, I think you can see the Buccaneers making a two-peat going back to back. So with that being said, going back to Leonard Fournette, Had a very big role in the postseason. I expect them to have a big role in this regular season because this regular season really didn't have a big role. You know, I felt like until towards the end, I feel like Ronald Jones was that regular season running back. But I mean, with that being said, I wish Leonard Fournette the best of luck this season. Again, congratulations on your contract and congratulations to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I'm interested to see how they're going to play this year.
Yeah, I am too. Best of luck to Leonard Fournette. Not too much luck to the Bucks. I know you guys are gonna take over the damn NFC South, but no luck. Not too much luck for you guys. But look, back to an analyst standpoint. Yeah, I absolutely agree. But there's one little thing that you're missing as to why they're not giving out big contracts. And I've mentioned it before. Obviously they want to run it back, and at this point, it doesn't matter how much they get paid. I absolutely agree with those. But there's still one more thing, and that's because the Florida sports market is not a big market. You can make the argument that it is because they have a lot of teams. There's the Buccaneers, there's the Miami Dolphins, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Miami Marlins, the Tampa Bay Rays, who probably have the smallest market in all sports. Then you got the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Miami Heat, the Orlando Magic. You got all these teams.
Is Miami Heat though? Are they really like a small market though?
I think they
Because
are.
Jimmy Butler and
I
Bam
think they are to
got
an
some
extent.
big
I think they're
contracts.
probably if you think about it, I think they're probably the biggest market in Florida. But when you really think about it, it doesn't really mean a lot because Florida doesn't have a big sports market. Oh, and the Florida Panthers. I can't forget about them.
Because I think
Well, I
Bam I
can,
think
but
Bam and Jimmy Butler they got some pretty hefty contracts.
well, yeah, yeah, they do have a relatively big for what it is. You know what I mean? But all the other Florida teams, you gotta think they don't play in a big market. So at this point, you think, oh, I just won a Super Bowl with a very small market team. We want to run it back. The idea is they run it back with the greatest quarterback of all time. You got all these assets. Why would I want to leave?
Right.
Obviously you got teams like the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs that are trying to make a Super Bowl run. But the difference between them and the Bucks is that the Bucks won one and they're trying to run it back. They didn't. So why would I just go there and try and win a Super Bowl when I can just win another one here? When it's basically at this point it's basically guaranteed. You got, obviously going back to the sports market thing, Florida's not like New England where we got a pretty big sports market up here. New York probably has the biggest. You really think about it, you got the Yankees and the Knicks. The Yankees have like $2 billion, who are like worth $2 billion, and you got the Knicks that are like worth almost $4 billion. Which when I first heard that, that kind of blew my mind. But it makes sense when you think about it. Given where they play and who owns them, it makes a lot of sense. But then you got LA, that's a pretty big sports market. Dallas is a pretty big sports market as well. Florida isn't that. They're not able to spend hundreds of millions of dollars like New England is, like Los Angeles is, like New York is. All these other players, not just Tampa, but most Florida teams aren't capable of doing that. The only Florida team that can is the Heat, because the Heat are actually a pretty big market if you think about it. But not in comparison to other teams in the league, of course. But they do have a relatively big market now that you think about it. But yeah, that's the other reason why the Bucks don't really give out that big of contracts. But hey, at that point, it doesn't even matter because the Bucks proved one thing to a lot of teams this year: small market teams can still win titles. It's as simple as that. The Lightning proved it last season. They won the cup. The Rays proved, even though they didn't win it, they still proved that the smallest market in sports can still go to a World Series if they do it correctly. Obviously, of course, you got the Dodgers winning titles. You got the Lakers winning titles like it's crazy. They got big markets, but they can. The Bucks are still out here proving, hey, we don't need to spend this kind of money to win a title. All it requires is the talent and the mindset, and that's why I think a lot of players tend to fall off the charts. It's like, and I even said it before in high school. I remember Mario probably remembers this. Someone asked me, I can't remember who, I can't remember exactly who asked us, but he asked me, it was like, did you want to do, if you were to play sports, you wouldn't take that much money or like 100, 200 million dollars? No, I wouldn't. I mean, does it sound cool? Yeah, but why am I in the
I
league?
mean, I mean, it
I
sounds
mean, I
good.
mean, yeah, I mean, it sounds tempting, but at the same time,
It
it's
sounds
like
great.
when I focus on the money, you know what I mean? Like sometimes, and especially my mindset, knowing me, that's probably something I'd end up doing. If I focus too much on the money, I lose track of what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right. Not
Because
only
I feel like
that,
I'm worth all this kind of money that, oh yeah, I'm on top of the league. Screw it. I got the $300 million contract. Like, screw it.
right. and not only that, like I don't know about you, but like me, I'd know if this was me. I just know exactly. But like if I was getting that paid that much and I wasn't performing at it, I wouldn't be enjoying this money. I
I
couldn't.
wouldn't
I
either.
just I'd look at it and I think to myself like I might be one of the most overpaid players in the league if I can't like and then you get that narrative by like fans and media. Like think about how many people roast like Kirk Cousins for being
Yeah,
like the most overpaid quarterback in the league because he gets paid so much, but like they just feel like he can't take him to the big one, which is what he's getting paid to do.
yeah,
Well, like look at like Carson Wentz and his narrative when he got paid. Look at Jared Goff. Like that narrative eventually comes at you. Like you're not worth that money. You don't
right,
want that
yeah,
narrative. You know, I rather take like I always said, I rather make a decent. And you heard me say this millions and millions of times. I rather make a decent amount of money and do something that I love than to make a lot of money and do something that I hate. And obviously, if I'm playing sports, I'm doing something that I love. But if I'm not performing at a high level,
I'm
or I'm
not
not
enjoying
performing
that
at the
money.
level of what I'm worth, then I'm not enjoying what I love to do. If I'm not performing at that level, it puts more pressure on you. I feel like when you get paid that much.
Right. And when and a lot of people ask me that question, I ask them this. I answer that and then I ask them this question. Let me ask you a question. You played sport. You got an offer, or say, oh, I'm in baseball, so like the contracts are a lot bigger, a lot different. So say in baseball, like I'm a pitcher, and the no, not the Dodgers, let's pick a let's take a team that didn't run to the championship. Let's say the Braves, all right. Let's say the Braves offered me like a 6-year deal worth $310 million. I know it's a lot of money, but that's just me being an example. But the Dodgers gave me a 3-year contract worth around 60, $70 million. What am I taking? I'm taking the 3-year deal because the Dodgers just won a World Series. And they're offering me a contract. Is it big? I mean, annually, yeah, it could be, but in comparison to the other one, it's nowhere near as big as that. But the reason why I'm taking that contract is because they won a World Series. That's what I want. I want to be a contributor to a World
Right.
Series team.
And don't get me wrong. And don't get me wrong. Like the one thing we keep on forgetting to mention when talking about money is like we don't know what kind of situation that these players are in. So like you could be
Exactly.
rich a
Yeah.
lot, but like here's the thing: when you're Tom Brady, right? Like let's take Tom Brady for example. He don't ask for a lot of money, but let's take him for example. Obviously, his wife is a supermodel. She's like one of the richest supermodels, most successful supermodels to ever live. But let's take him for example. Okay, if Tom Brady lives in this huge, amazing house, right? He's got property here, there, everywhere, right?
Mhm.
The reason, if he wanted more money, right? If he wanted a certain amount of money, then that reason for it is probably because of everything he has, you know? So don't get me wrong. Like 20 million sounds like a lot to us. 30 million sounds like a lot to us, but is it enough to Tom Brady? Because for everything that he has, you know? Is it enough to pay for every property that he has, you
Yeah.
know?
Exactly.
So like there's obviously those types of effects too, like what types of properties do they have, what exactly their financial like standard of living and and the amount of money that they need to support it. Absolutely. But when you're asking for like $40 million, like and you're like in your third year and and you're not even at that standard of living yet, that's when we start to question it. You
Yeah.
know?
Right.
And if you get that money, great, congratulations. Now you got even more pressure. Play like it. Because it doesn't matter how much money you got. You can keep bragging about how rich you are. It don't matter. Okay. At the end of the day, fans in social media are always going to grill you if you do not perform to that level that you're
The
supposed to
way the
perform.
way they
And
expect
you'll
you.
never get over it. And you'll never ever get that image off of you. Not image, but like I'm trying to think of the word. You'll never get that narrative off of you. That's a better word, narrative, unless you do it. So, for instance,
Right.
Kirk Cousins is never going to get the most overpaid quarterback in the league narrative off of him until he wins the Super Bowl. Carson Wentz is never going to get that overpaid narrative off of him unless he ends up having a breakout season. Same thing with Jared Goff. He's never going to get that narrative off of him unless he does something big, you know. And obviously, he made it to the Super Bowl. That's big too. But like since then, since the contract, he's
Hasn't really done a
the
lot.
talk just keeps on coming and coming. So that's the whole problem with getting paid this amount of money, right?
Yeah. Right.
A lot of money right there, which is why I always say take your like a negotiate your contract, get a fairly good contract that helps your team and it helps you continue to do what you want to do.
And choose it wisely too. But anyway,
Right.
we went way off track. Going back to the Buck situation, I got to get kudos to all these players for um putting quality over quantity. You know what I mean?
Completely agree.
These guys want to run it back, and obviously they don't. You're absolutely right. They don't care about the money. They just want to run it back. You know what I mean. I gotta get kudos to all the Buccaneers, even though they're a division rival of mine. I still gotta give the players credit. You know, they're doing whatever they can. Um, to run it back when a time. I remember Mike Evans was saying that he'll take money off of his contract just to get more assets to win another title. So at this point, these guys don't give a damn about the money. They just want another ring. And I gotta respect that. You gotta win by any means possible. So with that being said, going back to Leonard Fournette, um, I expect him to be yet another key piece of the team like he was last year. This time in the regular season, though, so obviously they had a lot of running backs last year. So hopefully he plays a bigger role. So with that being said, I wish Leonard Fournette the best of luck in Tampa Bay. Not too much luck to the Buccaneers. We still have to play 2 game times a year. But anyway, from an analytics standpoint, I do wish the Buccaneers the best of luck this year.